This podcast was made for Te Reo Irirangi o Aotearoa, nā te māngai pāho I tautoko. On a grassy headland, overlooking the scattered motu of Pēwhairangi Bay of Islands, two rōpū, two groups, are about to meet. The manuhiri, the visitors, approach slowly to where the haukainga, the dozens of people who are welcoming them to this extraordinary place, are waiting under a large marquee. Tū taki ana nā awe e rua. It is a meeting of two worlds. This encounter is the spreading of a korowai, o te mana, o te rangatiratanga, o te whakapapa.
Welcome to the land that he stood on and ran on and defended. Thank you for sharing.
In this tūtakitanga, there are also hints of hidden stories, ngā kōrero muna, and of ancient treasures, taonga no te wā tāwhito. And there are echoes of a relationship from an earlier time between two peoples. Te whanaungatanga o uki wainga I nā iwi e rua. Rangatira mai, kāwana mai. As the manuhiri draw closer, the karanga has given way to haka. Emotions are high, but we can also sense other things. He mea perikore, a mystery. He aitua, an injustice. And at the heart of it all, tētahi tupuna nā I takahi e nei whenua, an ancestor who strode these lands more than 200 years ago.
E tangata matakite, e tangata matakā.
Being a rangatira, I think he would have come with great mana and confidence in himself.
A man whose relationship with the British Crown challenges modern views.
There is reciprocity, and you can only find that really when you go and visit rangatira ki te rangatira, and seeing if there was a way that we could work together to create a future for all of us.
He wānanga.
Wānanga. Yeah, tika.
But a man whose story became twisted and complicated.
Within my grandmother's generation and my mother's too, the Te Pahi story is a very difficult one.
A man who ultimately suffered indignity and a grave injustice.
Settlement was attacked, his people were killed and shot in the water. He was shot, his house was burned, And this is somebody that had put up with so much from Europeans already.
And yet, a man whose mana endured and who can teach us about humanity and compassion.
And that's why I think he tried so desperately to intervene. I think it astounded him that people could be punished for the consumption of food.
You're listening to the 5-part Te Pahi podcast, The Rangatira, The King, and The Survivors. It's a story about a time in Aotearoa history often overlooked, well before the signing of Te Tiriti o Waitangi. Over 5 episodes, we'll be traversing some important early contacts with ngā tāngata kirima, Pākehā, both good and bad, trade and a meeting with a governor, the complicated and tragic story of the burning of a ship called the Boyd, and then the outright false accusations which flowed from that, with a horrific outcome. But we're also going to reveal new details about an extraordinary meeting in a Sydney courtroom in 1806, a meeting which had a full circle moment more than 2 centuries later. Wāhanga tuatahi, Pēwhairangi.
Ko te ingo o te whenua rā, ko te mataroa.
Ko Herb Rihari tēnei, no Ngāti Torihina ki Matakā. His tūranga waiwai is mataroa, his maunga is matakā.
Mataroa refers to the ability to see beyond the horizon. Koina te tahi o ngā āhua o te whenua. Kia pekea ki koe ki runga ki te tihi o tō mātou maunga matakā. Ka ki te koe, ki te pai tāwhiti. Nā tērā ka rere ngā wawata, ngā moemoea o te tangata.
And for Herb, the ability to see beyond the horizon is central to his idea of Te Pahi, the rangatira.
He tangata matakite, he tangata moemoea, he aha te tangata ki tērā atu taha o te arai.
Te Pahi was a man of foresight, matakite, and dreams, Moimoia. He lived at Mataroa in the 1800s, but he had ideas and thoughts beyond his time. Ka haere tawhiti atu ia ki tua, ki tā wāhi. He travelled far, even beyond the shores of Aotearoa, and his influence still touches us today. And that's because, as Herb says, as well as having moimoia, he had a deep thirst for mātauranga, about the wider world, about the world of Pākehā.
He tino nui te hia moiho i roto iaia. He tino nui te hikaka ke roto iaia ki te ako i ngā mea hau, i ngā mea Pākehā, mo te painga o ana uri. O ngā hapu katoa o te taitokerau.
So who is this tupuna, Te Pahi? And why are we tracing his footsteps? Also, who am I? Ko waio? Ki te taha o tōku whaia, he uri au no Ngāpuhi, ko Eugene Bingham tōku ingoa. He kaituhi, he kairipo ata hoki au. I'm a writer and a journalist. And over the years, I've heard the story of Te Pahi, including a tantalising mention I heard one day when I was listening to one of my favourite podcasts, Taringa.
Yeah. Te Pahi, one of the tupuna from the north, 1805, travels to Sydney and lives as a guest of the governor for 3 months. One of the interesting things he does too, Te Pahi, when Te Pahi's in Sydney, finally, he gets invited to this court case.
But the more I've learnt, the more questions I've had. And now, those questions have led me to making this podcast for RNZ. But we're also telling the story in a 2-part video documentary, and details of where to watch that are in the show notes. As for all my questions, there's someone who can help us answer a lot of them. Nō reira, kia tūtaki tātou, kia Deirdre Brown.
Can we start with no hea koe, ko wai koe?
No hea koe, ko Deirdre Brown tōku ingoa, huri e hao no Ngāpuhi, no Ngāti Kahu.
Deirdre, you've brought someone with us today, someone very important. Would you mind introducing us?
So I thought for my kōrero today I'd bring my tupuna, Te Pahi, with me.
Deirdre holds up a beautifully framed copy of a small engraving of a tall, proud-looking man with a full moko and a fine head of tight, curly hair. E rua nā raukura kei tōna māhunga. He mere kei ona ringa, he mea whakairo kei tōna kaki. He kākahu kei runga i tētahi pokohiwi. The feathers, his mere, his pendant carving, his cloak, his stance, they all make it obvious that this is a rangatira. And if it had been a photo, you'd say he's staring right down the barrel. If you want to see it for yourself, this image and others relating to Te Pahi are online at www.rnz.co.nz/Te Pahi.
Te Pahi is my great-grandmother's great-grandfather. So my great-grandmother, Harata Rifi, and she's descended from a line of people who are called Rifi. Rifi was one of Te Pahi's sons. I look at this often and look at his hair and think about my own hair. But also, you know, he's got the full moko kanohi. He's fully tattooed. He's obviously a man of rangatira and standing. And here he is with his taonga in his hand, draped in the clothes of his people, made out of the plants from his kāinga as well. I think this is a very respectful portrait. This hangs in my office and I take a lot of inspiration from it every day. I look at it every day and I think how amazing it is that I am descended from this incredible rangatira, that there are so many of us now, and his role in making sure that our whakapapa continued, but also his important role in, I guess, starting to build the foundations between Māori and Pākehā culture in Aotearoa, New Zealand, which has led on to the country that we have today.
Beyond her whakapapa connection to Te Pahi, Deirdre has also researched her ancestor. She's an academic.
I'm a professor of architecture here at the University of Auckland, Waipapa Taumaterau. I'm particularly interested in 19th century Māori art. The Te Pahi work that I've found my way into was always an interest for me.
Hoi anō, e hara te ara rangahau I te ara māma. He nui ngā piki, he nui hoki ngā heke. Researching her own tupuna has not always been simple for Deirdre.
There was some reticence, I would say, within my own whānau about talking about him. My grandmother's generation and my mother's too. The Te Pahi story is a very difficult one and has been told in a particular way. The way that they would have heard about it during their schooling was not the way that their ancestors had passed down stories to them.
Me āta haere tātou, we must proceed carefully because he tika tāna kōrero, there are many untrue stories about Te Pahi that have been told. He kōrero takahi mana, his mana has repeatedly been trampled upon. We'll come to some of those stories later on. The most damaging were false allegations which had deadly consequences. Over time, due to the mahi of some historians, the truth has emerged. Kua puā wai mai te pono me te tika I nāianei. Historians like Dame Anne Salmond.
I'm Anne Salmond, and I'm from Tairāwhiti, from Tūranganui-a-Kiwa, and also from the University of Auckland, which I guess has been my other home, and Devonport. Here we are in Auckland.
Dame Anne has researched deeply the first contacts between Māori and Pākehā.
I was working on that whole period when the voyages of scientific exploration were coming to an end, and they'd kind of figured out what sorts of things might be useful for the imperial homeland. They had encountered whales, they saw seals, timber. So when I was looking at those early exchanges in the whaling era, Te Pahi stood out because he was somebody that people talked about all the time. Very entrepreneurial and very curious.
I taua wā, he ao rere kē rawa I tai mai ki Aotearoa. A strange new world was arriving on our shores, and these manuhiri, visitors, were being watched closely by rangatira like Te Pahi, high up on his pā in Pēwhairangi.
So from those headlands, you had a very commanding view of the Bay of Islands.
Ko Deirdre Brown anō.
So this was a very strategic location because he could see all incoming and outgoing waka traffic, and of course Europeans were coming in greater numbers, and he seized on an opportunity to trade.
Te Pahi lived in Wairoa Bay on an island pā off the Pererua Peninsula, also known as Mataroa, on the northwest side of the Bay of Islands, Pēwhairangi. Today, people think of Kororareka, Paihia and Kerekere as the hotspots of this rohe. Mataroa is deserted by comparison. But in the early 1800s, it was bustling. Hundreds and hundreds of people lived there, scooping fish, ika, from the moana, and hua whenua, vegetables, from the huge marakai gardens. It was a bountiful place.
Ka haere mai rātou, I runga I te reo o te wairua.
Ko Herbert Hari tēnei.
I puta atu ki te ao mai te whenua, mai te pātapu o Rangihaua. Our whenua was emanating a wairua that naturally drew people to it.
They came for the views, ngā tirohanga, for the beauty, te ātāhuatanga, because of the spirit, te wairua. But for many Pākehā captains, it was also a place to gather food and water for the men, and timber to repair their ships.
Me ngā kāpene o ngā waka Pākehā, I tai mai I te moana rā, Pēwhairangi, te kohi kai, kohi rākau, hei whakatika I a rātou waka.
By the mid-1800s, foreign ships were becoming a familiar sight in Pēwhairangi, with as many as a dozen European and American vessels a year calling in. As well as supplies, they were looking to buy flax, timber spars and other goods. Me te utu?
Iron was a critical material for Māori at that time. Metal was turned into gouges and spikes. Metal axes became increasingly important. These materials are important for construction, and the more you have of them, the more you can make and the more prosperous your society becomes.
He tino koi a Te Pahi. He was smart. He could see the possibilities.
He was a man who realised the moment of the time, that this was a time where there was opportunity to engage with Europeans and to enhance what Māori were already doing. And as a leader, seeking those opportunities, seeing what could be drawn out of them, he knew would enhance the haora and the mana of his own people.
He was one who understood the past, but he also looked toward the future.
Ko te hurihanga rihare tēnei, he rangatira anō no Ngāti Torehina ki Mataka.
He understood, and to look beyond the horizon, beyond the place where our tupuna referred to, te tahatu o te rangi, the place where the two waters meet, earth's water and heaven's water.
As Te Pahi's knowledge grew, so did his desire to learn more, and about one man in particular.
Te Pahi became very interested in the idea of meeting Philip Gidley King.
Philip Gidley King. ko te kāwana o New Hautewereia, the governor of New South Wales. King had arrived in Australia on the First Fleet, the first ships carrying British convicts. And he was known for his manaakitanga, his hospitality. He had already met some Māori visitors, including a whanaunga of Te Pahi.
Well, I think King is really important because he was the first kāwana that Māori really got to know.
Ko Dame Anne anō.
And we have all these debates about the treaty and kāwanatanga. But the kāwana were real people, and they were people that, were either friendly or not. And King was somebody that seemed to have mana as well.
So it's in Te Pahi's mind, I must go and visit this man.
Well, I think King also had Te Pahi in mind. It was a mutual thing because King had heard about Te Pahi and he was sending him pigs and various gifts before Te Pahi came and spent time with him. So I guess Te Pahi was curious and so was King.
So Te Pahi thinks, me haere atu, I should go to learn and to seek things for the benefit of my hapu.
Kia ako, kia kohi ngā mea pai, mo tōna whānau, mo tōna hapu, mo tōna whenua.
So off he goes.
Yes, off he goes.
Yes, with 4 of his sons, whole entourage, and decides that, yes, he will go and see King and visit him in Government House.
Off he goes. But what will Te Pahi find in Pēwhairangi, Sydney? And how will it change his understanding of the ways of the Pākehā?
This would have been Te Pahi's first taste of the Industrial Revolution.
He haerenga whainga ki te rapu i ngā mea hau.
It was obviously something that he found confrontational.
He just thought it was completely barbaric.
That was Wāhanga Tuatahi, episode 1 of the 5-part Te Pahi podcast, written and presented by me, Eugene Bingham of Te Pūrongo Productions. As well as this podcast version, Te Pahi's haerenga is told in the new 2-part RNZ video documentary, The Rangatira, the King and the Survivors. Check the show notes for links to that. There's also a book written by me, published by Eleanor Numwin, called The Chief and the Empire. Writing and podcast editing by Adam Dudding, mixing by Andrew McDowell of DigiCake. Stephanie Huriana Fong is the Pōreo Māori. Annabelle Lee Mather and Mihi Narangi Forbes are the executive producers. Yana Tanahu Owen is the RNZ Commissioner Māori. Produced for RNZ by Aotearoa Media Collective with funding from Te Māngai Pāho.